With that, let's get into our main story for today, which is actually inspired by something that DGC recently shared over in our Discord. So I'll encourage you to go to our Discord server and watch a video by a guy named Nick with no K over on YouTube. This is a list of anime that Christians can watch or should watch, the best anime for Christians to watch. At first, I thought I will watch the video and react to it, but instead, what I'm going to do is add to the video. I'm going to add a little list of my own of what I think are some anime that Christians should be watching. Of course, we have a whole video that I'll link somewhere in here where I explain why, as a pastor, as a theologian, as somebody that is focused on pop culture and ministry, why I believe that they can watch anime. The basic gist of my argument there is that I think that they can watch it. I think that they should be watching it. And I think that it comes down to discernment. So I believe that we as creators are inspired by the creative act of God, that we do that as a part of our Imago Dei, which means that we're made in the image of God. We are creators because God is the creator. And so in the act of art, we are tapping into an echo of God's creative work. And so by that measure, I think that art, which is what we create, is worth discerning. Really, no matter what. That's really kind of a full stop, is that we should always be willing to discern. And then I talk a little bit about why I think you should, which is really what Nick with no K gets into in his list as well, which again, I'll encourage you to go watch that video. I'm going to go through his list really quickly, but I still would encourage you to watch the video and see his reasons for each of them. There are some real shocks on here, some real surprises that I was delighted to see, some that I definitely did not expect to see on the list, but I think we probably see eye to eye of the reason behind the potential of these stories to elucidate something within us as Christians. Of course, the Bible, right, our prima scriptura, we are inspired by and we know Jesus through the word, but also we can experience the Spirit through the things that we consume elsewise. And we ought to, and we should. We should be expected to do that as well. If we're going to do everything for the glory of God, why not watch our anime that way as well? So Nick with no K's list here. I'll go through them really quickly. Spy Family was the start of the list, which I thought was a fun place to start. One that I did not expect at all was Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie. I watched that anime last year as well. It is a great show. It's super fun, but as somebody that is about to recommend a pretty risque anime, that was a surprise to see on here. FMA Brotherhood, I think, is the most iconic choice. We all know Full Metal Alchemist by now. If you know anything about anime, you know Full Metal, and it is just so very, very good. One of the most exceptional stories out there, and could not agree more about that one. The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten was another real surprise, but pretty hilarious of a choice to put on there. I agreed with his reasons once he ran into them. This is one that I haven't actually seen. I think it's the only one on the list that I had not seen, so very funny. A big pick for him was My Hero Academia. I'll let you know more about, or I'll let you go watch his video as he explains more of his reason behind that one, as well as just kind of a clear passion for that anime, which is inspiring and encouraging to see. Another sleeper that I was not expecting to be on the list was Saint Cecilia and Pastor Lawrence. That is one that I also watched last year. It's kind of hard to have a show called Saint and Pastor something and not watch it as a pastor myself, but it was very fun. I think it's an interesting one to pull out for this list, but sure. I mean, if you're going to go with something that feels familiar, even if it's not exactly, theologically accurate, that it's still a lot of fun to watch. Demon Slayer was another recommendation. I have mixed opinions on Demon Slayer, but it is hard to deny that it is certainly one that has Christian values, and we have a nerdy sermon. We have a nerdy sermon on it, of course, where we talk about some of the willingness of Tanjiro, as I call him in the video, Tanjiro's willingness to choose the route of nonviolence. Of course, a very violent story, but he does try to be nonviolent at the beginning. One that is no surprise to any person here at Checkpoint is Frieren Beyond Journey's End was on this list. One of the best out there. Just one of the best anime at this point. I mean, I just think it's just so incredibly good. Ashley Muscles and Magic was another one on his list. That was a sleeper, a surprise. I'll leave that one in his corner because I have some silly choices on here as well, but sure. Why not? And then Kaguya-sama Love is War as just a good bit of comedy, which I think is a underrated pick because I think sometimes we as Christians forget that not everything, or at least this pastor, I'll just own it as myself. This pastor sometimes forget that we don't have to have things that are heavy and weighty and intense stories for them to still be good stories. So Always good to see that. Now, my list. So these are some that was not on Nick with no K's list that I think could be, should be. And if, Nick, you're watching this video and you have not seen these, you should check them out because they're really, really good. The first one is the one that is my number one pick that I recommend to every pastor. So being somebody in the ministry, this is the anime that I recommend to pastors because it is better at explaining what the work is of pastoral care, which is where we care for people in our parish. It is one of the best examples of that outside of seminary. And that anime is Violet Evergarden. So if you've never seen Violet Evergarden, really need to check that one out. This is a story about someone who is a super soldier who after wartime goes on and enters back into the normalcy of the world. She doesn't know what to do other than hurt. And so she learns to become somebody that essentially writes letters, takes notes, writes books, that kind of thing. But she ends up going to people who want to tell stories or want to write letters because nobody is literate in this universe. And she writes these letters and she hears these stories and her heart breaks and she understands and she learns what love is through experiencing the hurt, the trauma, and the stories of others. Really very, very good. My second pick is Tokyo Revengers. I should also say that I think we have sermons on all of these, maybe. Looking at them, yes, all but one we have sermons on, and one we have a Advent of the Nerd devotional on. So Tokyo Revengers, I actually have 2 nerdy sermons on this series. It's one of the best out there. I think that Michi is just a fantastic character. This is one that follows around a gang of hoodlums who are pretty rough around the edges, but they're trying to be made better by this time-traveling young man named Takamichi, who is able to be more perseverant than anyone else. So even in this world, he cannot fight, but he still takes a punch to prove a point. A very good story, one of my favorite time traveling stories. And even though it didn't end exactly how I wanted it to, who boy did I enjoy the journey. So one of the best examples of darkness and how we can overcome it. The third one, this is one that I was actually really surprised was not on Nick with no K's list. I think this is as obvious as Full Metal Alchemist, and that is Gurren Lagann. This is also the one that I don't have an official nerdy sermon on. This is just the Advent of the Nerd. But if you have never watched this anime, it is just one of the best out there. If you like mechas, if you like bots, you'll like this show, but it's certainly not what it is about. This is a story of Kamina and Simone and a gang of folks who are trying to overcome adversity and the darkness within themselves as well. It's from Studio Trigger, who does an incredible job of animating this experience. It's well known from its first season in which Kamina, of course, tells Simone, who doesn't believe in himself, if you can't believe in yourself, believe in the Kamina that believes in you. Believe in the me that believes in you. Just an inspiring story, inspiring characters. It will move you to tears. It's just one of the best out there. Another one that I think is a sleeper that a lot of people haven't heard of is Ranking of Kings. Boji is the best boy. He is a little king amongst a world of giant kings, and whenever his dad dies, he has to kind of fight for the throne and figure it out. It's like if Game of Thrones met Studio Ghibli. Boji is an important character for a lot of reasons, not only because he is mute and deaf and so represents a really fascinating aspect of accessibility, but also because he is, like Takamichi in Tokyo Revengers, an extremely perseverant person. He is somebody that has a never say die attitude and inspires those around him by his willingness to push forward. One that I was also surprised not to see, this one again has kind of an iconic history, but Trigun, as well as Trigun Stampede. Vash is just so very, very good as a character, and the very clear allegory of good and evil in this one feels very Old Testament, but also feels very much like a New Covenant kind of comprehension of what it is to be a person in this world. If you've not experienced Trigun before, am I going to be able to explain that one in just a few words? Probably not. You might just need to watch it for yourself. You follow through Vash as he is fighting against his twin brother who does not want humanity to go on, whereas Vash really does want humanity to go on, and it's so much more than that, and I really can't reduce it to just one simple thought. But a very good story, really well told, I think, in the reboot. A lot of people will push back on that, but I thought it was exceptional. My next pick is Madoka Magica. That shouldn't surprise anybody too much that knows me very well. This is a magical girl anime that defies the stereotypes of magical girls. So the normal premise of a magical girl anime, this is like a Sailor Moon where you get some kind of fairy conduit that gives you powers and you're able to go fight crime. So it's kind of the feminine version of superheroes where they were trying to go for what would appeal to young girls in cartoons of that era. Hence Sailor Moon. The commentary of this particular director is that the magical girls are certainly not being under the right influence. This fairy conduit that is telling them that they have powers is actually being a bit disingenuous. And in fact, there is a far more devious, far more grand scheme going on with the purpose and the use of a magical girl. It kind of has a vibe of like selling your soul sort of thing, and it really does it exceptionally well. It's one of my favorite stories. It's my favorite anime. It's dark and gritty. It's unexpected. It's subverting the tropes constantly, and it is so worth the watch. That was your first anime, Lizzie. I hope you're saying Sailor Moon and not Madoka Magica. If Madoka Magica was your first anime, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That would never be the first one I would recommend to somebody because that is absolutely a couple years deep in anime before you watch that one. The next pick for me is Chainsaw Man. Now this one, I don't love Chainsaw Man. I super enjoyed the first like cur, but then once we got into the second arc, I think it totally jumped the shark. I did not enjoy Chainsaw Man beyond like chapter 100 or whatever. But the actual, no way you started with Madoka Magica. Lizzie, we got to talk more about this. I need to know more of this story over on the Discord. So feel free to drop that nugget. Because wow, that is shocking. Chainsaw Man has this really fun aspect of its lore in which the reason why Chainsaw Man is so powerful is because the way that demons in this world are powered is through fear. So people are more afraid of chainsaws, and so Chainsaw Man is more powerful. If it was Marshmallow Man, people are not very afraid of marshmallows. I don't know though. Rubber bunny or whatever, you might just choke on a marshmallow. So maybe it is a little scary. Anyway, the way that demons are powered is through fear. And I think that's a really fascinating and compelling argument. Of course, some of you may or may not know more of my thoughts on spiritual warfare, but you know that I am extremely optimistic about spiritual warfare and that I think that we should be less afraid and not more afraid. We should never even respect our fears or our demons or our concerns about spiritual warfare or the darker things in life. But alas, that is a sermon for another time. We're going to get now into the next one, which is my shocker pick. So this is along the Shikimori's Not a Cutie vibe of Nick with No K's list, and that is My Dress Up Darling. This is probably our most compelling one of our nerdy sermons, but I think My Dress Up Darling is one of the best examples of how to pursue our hobbies and how to do things that we love because we love them. And I think that is an important aspect of what it means to be a human, of what it means to be a creative and a creator. So that one is still one that gets me in trouble, but doggone it, it's so good. Next up is Erased. This is just because I just think it's a really, really good anime. And I do think that Satoru, the main character from Erased, has a lot of like Christ-like figure aspects to him and is worth kind of seeing a, if you could, what would you do sort of time travel story. And then my final pick is Bocchi the Rock. I wanted to pick a comedy one since they picked Love is War. I thought I'd pick a comedy one as well. Bocchi, as I allude to in the nerdy sermon on Bocchi the Rock, is a story of how to get along, of how to come past our differences and learn to relate to each other despite them. So this is a story in which Bocchi is a incredibly introverted, shy, socially adverse person who also happens to be wickedly talented at guitar. And she ends up being found by a band, but she doesn't want to be seen. And so that ensues the antics. It's originally a 4-panel comic that went on to get an anime adaptation, and it's really very, very good. I think it's very funny. I think we're getting season 2 this year, and I'm super duper excited. So there you go. There's my list of what anime Christians should be watching. What are the best anime that Christians should watch? There's my list. Let me know if you checked out Nick with a K's list. Let me know if you would pick any from my list. There are always more on there as well. DGC dropped in the chat there. Fruits Basket and Promised Neverland could be added to the list. Hey, look, spoiler alert, folks. Checkpoint Church puts out nerdy sermons every single week. These are 10 to 15 minute video essays on video games, anime, movies, all that sort of stuff. And last I checked, we have 62 nerdy sermons on anime. So this is just the beginning. This list is only the tip of the iceberg. We have so many more anime we could talk about. There are so many more that I could put on this list, so many more that I love that I think people should be watching. So, hey, look, there you go. You have over a year. If you watched one every single week, you have over a year worth of anime nerdy sermons to watch. So there you go. There's my shout out. And thank you, DGC, for reminding me of that, because there are a lot of good anime out there, clearly. At a bare minimum, and this is a comment I actually left on Nick with No K's video, at a bare minimum, we have 62. So it's a thumbs up for me on anime. I think God is doing amazing things through art, and it is through our discernment that we are really able to experience some incredible stories. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching this one. We're going to wrap up the main segment here with that thought. And of course, we do believe God loves you. We love you. You matter, whether you're a nerd, geek, or a gamer, whether you watch anime, any of those things. So be sure to check it out and join us on Twig next week.